I get to see more of the primeval landscape that is the Demon Lands. Belquist takes every opportunity to get close to me on our journey. Why, I ask, do you act like this? Hmm? She hums. Like what? I am hesitant to say more. Like, well, like you like me. She giggles. Because I like you. I'm perplexed. Why? She is pensive for a moment. When you were fighting at the wall with your glowing sword, I was dazzled by the way you moved. I guess you could say I fell for you. And for that you corrupted me? Made me a demon? She smiles a mischievous smile. Do you regret it? I sigh. I never wanted this. She continues walking at my side in silence. I'm not pretending, she says. I really do like you. I find myself at a loss for what to say. We continue on our way. The forest grows dense, and the animal trails often lead to meet dead ends. Belquist flies up over the canopy to mark our way. It's close, she says as she returns to me. Who were the makers? I ask, wondering about the dungeon that we seek. They were an ancient civilization that once occupied the land. Relics from them that have survived the passage of time are renowned for their magical powers. But to get such a treasure requires passing the trials of their dungeons. The one that we're heading to has never been conquered, so the treasure vault remains open to whoever can claim it. I nod my understanding. As day ends, we make camp. I stare into the fire while Belquist rests her head on my shoulder. When you were with the doctor, she says, I wanted to help you. I remember when he peeled my flesh and dropped the fell into my marrow. Her voice catches. As he continued his sick experiments, I had to act. I turn my head to her. For a moment, I think our lips will meet, but for the first time, she seems embarrassed. She sits up straight. I'm going to get some sleep. She stands to find a place by the fire. Her wings wrap around her as she beds down. I look at her curiously for a long moment. She is a riddle to my mind. Perhaps that simple peasant girl hides behind the seductive demoness mask. I close my eyes and fall into a meditation. The harmony of my soul world is troubled, the nature and peace corrupted by hate and rage. Before, the spirits sought me out to draw them back to unity, whereas the soul had been shrinking, now it expands. At a loss for how I will advance as a cultivator with the soul of a demon. Night passes, and Belquist rouses from her slumber. The journey continues till midday, when we come upon a tunnel built into the side of a hill. She smiles. Ta-da! The tunnel is lined with black bricks. Belquist's shadow turns to green flame as she leads me into the Maker's dungeon. Did you find that sword you carried in a dungeon like this? I stir from my thoughts. Not exactly. It was a relic, but I found it in a simple ruin. Her tail swishes from side to side. Ooh, she shivers. I'm so excited. Calm down, I say as I step out in front of her. There could be traps. On cue, I step on a pressure plate. An arrow flies at my head. Green flame stirs, blowing the projectile away. My companion chuckles. I'll keep that in mind. Somewhat embarrassed, I walk slowly through the trap-laden tunnel. Once we've passed the hall, we find a room with a staircase leading down. Belquis and I share a look before I lead the way down. The dungeon is a complex maze of hallways and rooms. We come upon a number of rotted corpses, the traps pointed out where they fell. I tried my hand at making fell flame with my shadows. In my hand rests an illuminating ball of fire. I catch Belquis's smile. You're learning. I shrug. Ever down we travel. Most rooms we pass have nothing in them, but occasionally we find chests with nothing in them. Whatever the riches were hiding in them long looted. The deeper we go, the more locked doors we find. Belquis uses her fell flame to cut the locks. More often than not, these doors are open to empty rooms, but sometimes treasure chests lay unopened. The costly silks and potions long spoiled by time. Belquis complains as we find our 10th worthless chest. You'd think the makers could have made something with gold or jewels. I stifle a laugh. I'm sure we'll find something. As we descend another floor, I sense a change in the atmosphere. My companion follows my lead as I mark out traps. A rattling sound carries from the depths of the hall. I take the ball of fire in my hand and throw it into the darkness. I watch it suddenly stop as it collides with a cage of bones. The green fire simmers as I watch skeletons break off from the main body. I channel my energies into my fellblade. The rattle of bones echoes through the hall as my fellblade takes on a fell green appearance. Belquis readies herself, drawing a whip of fell flame. The first of the scourges upon us. My blade cleaves one of the undead in half, and I move on to the next. I advance through the onslaught, only to realize that the bones can still claw and scrape at me after being dismembered. Keep going, Belko says. I'll clean up. Her whip smashes heads and hands in the wake of my dive into the threat. The skeletons aren't particularly difficult to dispatch, but there seems to be no end to them. My fell blade slashes wide, melting rib cages and severing spines. I call upon my soul world to fuel me with chi, but I feel a backlash as the peaceful spirits refuse my call. The This inspires within me rage, and I exert my will on the peaceful side of my soul. These spirits are not my friends, they are my fuel. The darkness of my soul world rejoices as my soul embraces corruption. New power wells up from within me as I drive my fell blade into the floor. Before me, cracks in the stone glow with green fire. I feel my energy explode along with the corridor. A storm of hellish fire erupts from the cracks, annihilating the skeletal horde before me. In the gap, I use the gift of the Chilean to move like lightning to the end of the hall. The skeleton manufacturing machine is assembling a new combatant as I slash into it. Over and over, I vent my hatred on the machine. I continue long after the bones stop moving. I feel a hand on my shoulder. My instincts drive me to raise the blade to the new threat. Belquist looks at me with emerald eyes, unperturbed by my weapon being raised against her. In her gaze is unmistakable lust. She draws close as I breathe heavily. Her body melds with mine as she kisses me. Our tongues dance as she lets her shadow garments fade. For a moment I want to submit my lust, to take her in the middle of our battlefield. With some effort I break our kiss. She bites my lip, drawing blood. Our melded forms come apart, and I am given full view of what I am missing out on. She pouts as she once more is dressed in shadows. I look away from her. With a huff, she leads onward into the dungeon. We descend down yet another staircase. I'm surprised to find the floor to be a solitary room with a single chest at the center. There could be traps, I say hesitantly. Belquist laughs and flaps her wings. She hovers off of the floor and lands in front of the chest. I hold my position, not wanting to tempt fate. My companion opens the chest and looks inside. Whatever prize lies within elicits excitement in the demoness. I knew there would be something good. I wait for her to retrieve the treasure. She holds something in her hand as she closes the chest. I'm confused as she flies back to me. She smiles at my puzzled look. Her hand opens and I see two rings. I feel an eyebrow raise. She giggles. Don't give me that look. These are spatial rings. Spatial rings? I echo. Here, she hands me a ring. Put it on. I shrug and put it on. Suddenly I become conscious of a pocket dimension within the ring. What? I manage. She smiles. You can store things inside. She demonstrates with a rotted stone on the floor. It's there one moment and gone the next. I'm surprised by the utilitarian piece of jewelry. Come on, Belquist skips to the stairs. There's nothing left to find. I hesitate before following her. The dungeon is easy to navigate our way out of, and soon we are back in the overworld. Out of the labyrinth, Belquist becomes somber. What is it? I ask. She startles out of her thoughts. Hmm? Oh, nothing. Let's go back. As she leads me, can't help but feel like something is wrong. She has to report her failure to the Mao. I feel myself lagging behind my companion. We should leave, I blurt out. She turns to me, her expression troubled. She smiles sadly. I'll be fine. Now come on. We've already been absent for too long. It's like she's walking towards her doom. Hours pass and we settle down for the night. Her head on my shoulder, we watch the fire in silence. Night passes, and once more we journey northward. There is a gulf that grows between us as the days pass. Finally, we come upon the castle that I had become a demon in. The demons that populate the castle show no concern for our presence. We approach a grand hall built for giants. Inside, a number of demons are gathered. A strong scent carries through the air. The shadows gather around something enormous. "Belquis," comes a thunderous voice. My blond-haired companion is white as a sheet as she haltingly steps forward. I want to go to her, but am held back by a pair of mean-looking demons. I impotently watch Belquis stand before the Mao. A moment later, she takes a knee. I have no word of the Nair joining our war. Shaking, she says, "Your Excellency, I was not able to persuade the Nair." The shadows rage. A number of demons gathered move back under the threat. "You disappoint me, Belquis," the voice thunders. I'm sorry, Your Excellency, I will crucify her," the behemoth roars. "Your Excellency, please," she cries as she is taken by a number of the attendants. I struggle to draw close, but I am held back. The gathering flows out of the hall, and I find an open field with a hideous scene. Dozens of winged demons are impaled by their hands, feet, and wings on wooden beams. On one empty abstract cross meets Belquis's terrified form. The demons waste no time in taking out cruel-looking stakes. Even from afar, the metal stakes exude a weakening effect. I watch as red blood sprays with every scream my companion makes. My chi mobilizes, and I summon my fellblade. I cut my way through the demons, enjoying the show. Rage stirs in the guards as they see my defiance. Every ounce of energy I can mobilize from my soul world comes to my demonic muscles. The first guard I meet has disdain in his eyes. I replace that disdain with shock by disemboweling him. He clutches at his viscera while the next swings at me. I recoil just in time to save my arm before punching the man in the face. More and more demons pile onto me. I look mournfully to my companion. Through her pain, she looks to me. Her lips read, "Run." I feel myself pushed back, out of her sight, out of sight of her. The demons stare at me menacingly. I search for some sight of her for the final time, but I can't find her. Impotent, I turn and run. I'm hunted as I flee the castle. Winged pursuers stalk me for hours as I drive into the thickest parts of the jungle. Days pass as I evade capture. I think of what to do. Belquis wasn't executed outright. They made her an example of what happens to those who fail the Mao. Despite how much stronger I've become as a demon, I won't be able to win as I am now. What can I do? I know what I can do. My path leads me to the northwest, to find a treasure that might give me the power to save her. Days pass as I navigate the landscape. The armies of demons that threaten the wall are eerily absent as I find my way. The ravine I lost myself to is like a giant mouth. A glint of silver shines in the midday sun. I recognize the landscape of my night raid. My feet pound the earth as I run to the speck of my hope. Breathing heavily, I stand over the legendary sword. Sword, I say. Silence is my answer. Sword, I say. I repeat. Speak to me. I feel terribly alone as I look down on my partner. With no other recourse, I stoop down to pick up the sword. Rather than pass through the hilt, my fingers burn where I touch it. When I look at the wound, I see unblemished skin, but the heat lasts. I chew on my lip as I think of what I should do. I resolve myself to claim the sword. Slowly, I put my hand on the insanely hot sword. I can't maintain hold on the weapon and vomit from the pain. When I recover, I try again. Time and again, my hands burn from invisible wounds, and soon I have nothing left to heave. Night comes on as I experience misery beyond what the doctor was capable of inflicting on me. At some point, I lose consciousness. I awaken somehow refreshed. I am somewhat confused as I look to the sword. Say something. I only hear my words. A sigh escapes me. My hands find the blade, and once more I feel my flesh seared. The pain is no less than before, but I am better able to endure it. I lift the sword and feel tears leak from my eyes. I can't hold it up for long, and plant it into the ground. My body trembles as I kneel before the sword. Wave after wave of fiery pain crashes upon me, but somehow I feel as if the pain is purifying me of the corruption that has been sown into my soul. Days pass, day passes as I hold onto the sword. At some point during the night, I lose consciousness. I awaken collapsed beside the legendary sword. I take the handle, and I am surprised by the sensation. There's pain to the touch, but it's not something that burns. It's something other. As if from far away I hear, "You are worthy, Askilar." I feel a smile touch my lips. "Come on," I say. "I need your help." The sword glows. The shadow tattoo on my arm, a fiery orange. Like purified fire, it projects out onto the blade. Sword in hand, I march off to face the demon lord and its army. The power and endurance gifted to me by my demonhood powers my body on the march. But the discord on my soul abates. "I thought you were a goner, partner." I nod solemnly. "What are you so gloomy about? Is it a girl?" "It is, isn't it? All I can think of is her screams as they impaled her with those damned stakes."